Aloha, everybody. This is Dave Wallace come to you from Waihoa, Hawaii, and I have a change of scenery. I'm here at the Waihoa Freshwater Park, and I'm sitting close to the front of the park, and it's a beautiful day. And in fact, I just got through giving a reading, a tarot reading, to my client who wanted to meet me in person. So we sat on a bench not too far from here. Okay, so welcome to my Monday talk story time. And today I'd like to share with you an incident that occurred about a week ago, and something that I've been monitoring ever since. And to give you a background story of this incident, let me explain first the importance of the central plains that we belong to or live in. Wahiawa is located between the two major mountain ranges that make up Oahu. Uh, to the east of us, you have the Ko'olau Mountain Range, and just behind me, to the west, is the Waianae Mountain Range. So between these two ranges, you have the central portion of the island, and it's the plains area, and this is where Wahiawa is located. There are two important places to Hawaiians located either here on the plains or close to it that can create problems for people who want to build things or establish things or traveling through the space if they're not aware. The first place is Kukani Local. And Kukani Local is not too far from here, about a mile northwest of where I'm sitting, that way. So, in fact, that way. Okay, so Kukani Local is the birthing place. The importance of this place and the reason why the chiefs chose this as a birthing place is at Kukani Local, this is a point where the mana from Po, straight from heaven, would enter the Hawaiian Islands. And it was like the pico or navel for the Hawaiian Islands, where all of the mana would enter the land in Kukani Local and feed the land, all of the Hawaiian Islands. So that's the importance of Kukani Local, and the reason why chiefs would take their pregnant wives to this location, and so they could give birth to their children at Kukani Local. So there was a heiau that's attached to Kukani Local, and this area is very active. In fact, I had an incident driving by Kukani Local while I was still in high school, and there was a green fog that kind of like covered the road, and it was pretty scary. And I felt really strange and wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of strange things that happen near the heiau. And are there night marchers? Well, some people say, yeah, there may be night marchers, and I would imagine the spirits of the ancient chiefs, and especially the ones that were born there, would be roaming around the area. Okay, so that is a possibility. The more probable reason for spirit activity is the nature and the location of the central plains in relationship to Kaina Point. And Kaina Point is, again, northwest of us. There's two ways of getting to Kaina Point. One, you can go through Central Plains here and head over to the north shore of Oahu and take a left and head out towards Mokuleia and continue going until you reach the Kaino Point that way. The other way is to go around Waianae on the south shore and go around that way. And there's a lot of homes and different places that uh, you have to cross over. So the central plains, which had been used for agriculture for years, had been left alone So I would imagine that the spirits would probably prefer to use this central pathway to Kaena Point if they were going out to Kaena Point. So these two things make living here in the central part of Oahu pretty hairy sometimes. Things can get pretty hairy. So, about a month ago, a close relative of mine was hired to work at a agricultural complex not too far down the road between Waihoa and Wailua. I will not name the place, but this place was built about 5 years ago. A mainland company came in and bought a large parcel of land, agricultural land, and they began developing a agricultural complex there. The total area is about 300 acres. The total area that they decided to use for this agriculture complex is about 40 acres. And they built buildings. And because of the location of this place, away from public utilities, water, and electricity, the company decided to go completely off grid. And so they have their own water supply, they have their own power generation. In fact, they use photovoltaic cells that's on the buildings throughout the place. And they have a kind of like a power station that collects the energy and stores the energy in batteries. And so it's a pretty neat setup. Anyway, this place has been running for about 5 years. And within the last month or so, this relative of mine began reporting that strange things began to happen at this agriculture complex. And some of the people that were that were working there was feeling uncomfortable. And the most unusual thing that began to happen on a regular basis is that during the evening and during the night, the power plant, for some reason, would either shut down or send a error message where the person that maintains this facility, this power plant, has to get up and drive all the way to this place and reset things. And this was happening quite frequently. In fact, the longer our relatives were working there, the more frequently it got until it began to happen almost every night. And so the manager, who's from the mainland, unaware of our ways and customs, began asking around, and this relative of ours said, yeah, we need to have this place blessed by a cow. And this is where I enter. So after talking with the boss and contacted me and explained what was happening with the place, I agreed to assist this company to see what I can do. And upon agreeing, as soon as I made the decision that I would help these people, I prayed. The very first thing I did was pray to my ancestors for guidance. And I sat back. You know, if you pray and ask for the ancestors or God for answers, you need to give time, yeah, for God and your ancestors to answer. So after having this prayer and addressing my ancestors, I kind of relaxed on my chair and went into meditation. And in fact, I think I fell asleep. And while I was sleeping, this vision popped up in my mind. And what I saw in this vision was bamboo sticks with white cloth tied at the end. I didn't understand what I was seeing, but I kept on seeing this bamboo stick with white cloth attached. And it kept on showing up inside my dream. And finally, when I woke up, began thinking about what is the significance? What is the significance of a white cloth tied to a bamboo stick? Then I remembered reading something about ancient Hawaiians who used to travel on the trails. And as they carried their things, remember, Hawaiians did not have a beast of burden. Okay? The beast of burden was the Hawaiian. If they wanted to move something from point A to point B, they would have to carry it. And so some of these people, as they were carrying the heavy loads along the trails, and they get to a point where the burden is too heavy for them to carry, they would take off part of the load, wrap it up, and they would take a piece of white tapa and tie it to this package and leave it on the side of the trail. With the white tapa attached on there, it was like a couple saying it belongs to someone. And so the rest of the travelers, when they come and see this package with the white tapa on it, they leave it alone and don't touch it. So after I figured out, well, why would my ancestors show me this? This is one way or something that I need to do at this place, at this agricultural complex. Get some white tapa and some bamboo and see what we can do with that. So that was the first thing. So I talked to my wife, Elle, and she donated a piece of cloth, white cloth, that she used for baking her bread, to wrap the bread so the bread can rise. And she had spare cloth, so I took scissors and cut strips from it. And I recalled that my mother-in-law had some bamboo in the backyard, and so I went and talked. My wife went and talked to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, we can cut whatever we need." So I went back and we removed some of the small skinny branches and we washed it down. I sharpened one end and we tied the white copper cloth to the end of the sticks. And so we were prepared that way. So on a given day, on the appointed day that I was to go to this place, my wife and I drove in and we followed our relative to the place. We didn't know where it was. But as soon as we got into the gate and got out of the car and I stood for a bit, I could feel tension around me. Like somebody saying, "Who the hell are you?" Excuse me, I don't want to cause trouble, please. And so I stood there for a bit and says, "Oh man, I'm surrounded by angry things, angry spirits." And to my right, I glanced over and there was the power plant. And it was enclosed in a chain link fence, and the power plant consisted of generators and a big metal building. And so that's where the problem was. And so I got out of the car and started walking around, and I got to a certain point on this property where all of a sudden I felt woof. I felt like I had jumped in a river and was being swept and pulled up to the north. And so this energy pulling me to this one place, and I turn around trying to find out, okay, where is this energy taking me to? And as soon as I turn around, I see the point on the mountain, on the Waianae Mountain, and I go, oh, the energy that's pulling me there is taking me to Kaena Point. And as I turned around and looked towards the southeast side of the property and looking towards Honolulu, I could feel the energy coming from there, and it was just blasting me with energy. So I decided to look at this source of energy with my spiritual eyes. So I closed my eyes. And as I closed my eyes, I could see the vapor trail. And this vapor trail looks something like if you ever go down to the airport and you watch airplanes ready to take off, and there's vapors coming out from the engine. That's what it kind of looked like, and they're colorful. It looks like a rainbow. And so that's what I saw. This trail coming down, and it was low, hugging the ground. And it came right through me, right into the power generation place. And I'm looking and I'm laughing and I say, oh, now I understand what's going on. There's a spirit trail that goes right through this property and right through this power generation plant. That's why I was called. And that's why I have these white copper cloths. So after seeing how low the energy field was and the flow of energy that created this trail for the spirits to follow. Again, it's like a river running through. So any spiritual beings get caught up in that, they're moving. Okay? So anytime you have spirits interacting with electronics, you're gonna have problems. And this is what was happening here. So after seeing how low this energy trail was and coming right through this property, I realized that tying the white copper was only part of the solution. The second part of the solution was to ask the spirits and Akua to see if they could elevate this spirit path over the property so that the spirit path would not disturb anything that's on the property and would leave it alone. So, but first things first. After making that discovery, and finally when the boss of the place showed up, I sat and talked with him and explained to him the importance of the place and what may be happening there, about the trail coming through and what we needed to do. And I asked him if this place was ever blessed. He says, no, we're waiting for the grand opening that's going to take place later this year. And I says, well, if you don't get this place blessed or solutions found, this thing's going to be happening over and over and over again, and you're not going to solve the problems. So he was game for whatever I suggested. So after praying and asking for guidance from Akua and my ancestors, the first thing we did was stake the bamboo along the fence of this power plant. And I gave the boss this white strips of cloth and told them to attach it or tag any of the important machinery that he felt was really important. And by attaching this white copper, basically he's saying, Kapu no touch. Don't touch this, please. So he went around and tied the white copper on the outside, very visible, so anything coming along the place can see it fluttering. And it's a reminder that this is something sacred and important to another person, so please don't disturb. And then the second part is I told this man that we needed to explain why what we are doing on the land, who we are, and what are our intentions. So I had a long conversation with him to find out more about the company, who he was, and in sharing this Mahalo and sharing the insights, we were able to release that energy out, and any of the spirits that were there that could listen, they were listening, and they heard an explanation. And to make things formal, I offered up a prayer after learning as much as I could from this man. I addressed the spirits of the place and called upon them to listen, and I explained who this man was, that he's the head for this organization that's working here, and they have workers that's coming here earning money to take care of their families, producing food for people to eat. And isn't that the purpose of this land? To feed people, right? So after explaining that and asking permission to do what this company needed to do. And after doing that, I also called upon my ancestors to come and help me. And this is a third thing that I needed to do. And I asked them to help me convince the powers that be to raise and lift this energy uh, river that was coming through this place and elevate it and make it go over the property so it doesn't disturb anyone. So when I was finished with the prayer and finished with the explanation, uh, we started walking around the place, and the man started to explain a little bit more of what they were doing. There were foundations that they're going to be building more things there, more buildings. And by the time we finished walking around, I could feel a shift in energy. And before leaving before the boss left the place, I told him, please monitor this. Let me know if there's any change, because if there's changes that may happen, we're no longer dealing with good spirits. We may be dealing with lapu lapu koloi. And these are spirits that are really, really naughty. And they like to mess with things. So I told him to be alert, and if there's any other places that we didn't mark that seems important, I left some white cloth with him, and he can tag these different places, entrances, or buildings that they deem important. So after leaving the place, I before leaving the place, I came back to the car and sat for a bit and started talking with my wife, and the whole energy of the land felt different. I no longer felt pushed along. I no longer felt surrounded by people that were hostile to me. And so I felt very comfortable. In fact, I wouldn't mind going back there again and spending more time, because it's a beautiful place. So it's been a week so far, and so far the machines have not been shut down. There has not been a major incident or even a minor one that's not explainable. So it seems that the spirits have accepted the explanation, and they feel comfortable with the purpose of this place. So just a reminder here, if you're going to be building house on land that's been sitting vacant for years and no home's been built, just remember to take a look and take time to address the spirits of the place and tell them what you're doing and what you intend to do, and ask for their cooperation in what you're doing so that you can accomplish your goals on the land. And that is a better way of doing things than just moving in and setting up things and without being considerate. I mean, imagine you owning a piece of property and somebody else comes and looks at your property and say, wow, I'm going to build my house over here. And they come and they build a house, and they occupy your land. They have all kinds of different stuff on the land. They built a house. They're noisy. Kids are running around, disturbing the neighborhood. Okay? How would you feel? Not too happy, right? So I can understand why spirits would get upset, because again, they're human. Okay? So this is a lesson to learn, and hopefully you folks will take it to heart. Okay? And I'll be posting the Powerball numbers probably by next week, Friday. The Powerball numbers are, the jackpot is getting big, so we're waiting for it to go over 100 million and make the play worthwhile. Anyway, until that time and until next week, I hope you folks have a safe one and stay safe and malamapono. And this is Dave Wallace from Waihoa, Hawaii saying aloha.